Step away from the counter. Hands where I can see them. I own this restaurant. We're ICE. We'll verify that. Call your workers out. Agent Brennan, I trained you. March 2021, Newark Academy.
Silence. The agent reached for handcuffs anyway. That decision cost him 6 years in federal prison, cost the federal government $4.3 million, and cost New Jersey its immigration enforcement policy rewritten because one agent forgot every lesson his trainer had taught him. The trainer was Marcus Williams, 64, retired ICE Supervisor, 27 years. He'd trained 140 agents. The one arresting him in his own restaurant had learned nothing. This story went further than anyone expected. Stories like this don't get told unless people make sure they're heard. If this is your first time here, subscribe. 11:45 a.m., Mama Rosa's family restaurant, Newark, lunch rush. 45 customers filled the tables, 8 retired cops at their usual corner booth. Families with children regulars who knew the menu by heart. Marcus Williams worked behind the counter. His wife Vanessa moved between tables refilling coffee. Friday mornings had looked like this for 3 years. Marcus Williams, 64, retired Immigration and Customs Enforcement Supervisory Special Agent, Newark Field Office, 27 years of service. Presidential Rank Award, 2018. FBI, National Academy graduate. He had trained 143 agents over his career, teaching them workplace enforcement protocols, constitutional limits, verification procedures. The basics. The black Dodge Durango pulled into the parking lot. 4 agents stepped out. Tactical vests, ice patches. Marcus recognized the lead agent's walk, the posture of someone expecting compliance. Kyle Brennan, 29 years old, 3 years with ICE. Marcus had trained him in March 2021 at the Newark Academy. Brennan didn't recognize him. Brennan had received an anonymous tip. Restaurant hiring undocumented workers. He saw the Newark address, looked up the owner, black male, 64. Brennan didn't verify business licenses, didn't check employment records, didn't research the owner's background. He saw what he expected to see. A target. Marcus spoke first. I'm the owner. Brennan stepped closer. We need to see your workers. Marcus pointed to the wall behind him. 6 feet away, a framed retirement plaque, ICE seal, prominent, his name engraved beneath it. My credentials are right there. Brennan didn't look. Call your workers out. Marcus reached for his back pocket, slowly. My retirement ID is here. I can call Field Office Director Chen. He was my partner for 12 years. Brennan didn't move. Anyone can fake credentials.
No.
Director Chen's direct line is in my phone. Call your workers out. Marcus set his phone on the counter. You're refusing verification. I don't need to verify anything. Then you're operating outside protocol. The refusal was complete. 6 security cameras covered the restaurant, every angle, cloud backup. Marcus had installed them himself. He noticed phones rising, 12 at least. 3 off-duty cops at the corner booth, all recording. The families at tables 4 and 7 phones up, even the college student by the window. Marcus shifted his stance. 27 years of training kicked in. He spoke clearly, projecting toward the nearest camera. For the record, you are conducting workplace enforcement without verifying business ownership, without checking licenses, without confirming the complaint. Evidence was stacking. Retired Sergeant Michael Davies stood. 33 years, Newark PD. He'd eaten lunch here every Friday for 2 years. He raised his phone. I know this man. Brennan turned. Sir, this is federal business. This is Marcus Williams, former ICE. I've worked joint operations with him. Councilman David Torres, Table 9, already had his phone recording. His other hand dialed. Someone at City Hall needed to know. Brennan's voice rose. Put the phones away. No one moved. 12 cameras kept recording. The officers didn't lower their phones. The families didn't stop filming. Sirens. 3 cruisers pulled into the parking lot. 8 minutes had passed since the handcuffs closed. The first officer out was Captain Angela Rodriguez, Newark Police Department Major Crimes Unit. She had worked joint federal task forces with Marcus Williams from 2015 to 2018. Immigration fraud cases, human trafficking investigations. She knew exactly who he was. She stepped through the restaurant door, saw Marcus in handcuffs, saw Brennan holding his arm, saw 45 customers watching in silence, phones still recording. Marcus Williams. Marcus turned, recognized her voice. Angela. What the hell is happening here? Brennan straightened. ICE operation, workplace enforcement. Rodriguez looked at Marcus, at the handcuffs, at the retirement plaque visible on the wall behind him. You arrested Marcus Williams. We're conducting an immigration investigation. That's a 27-year ICE veteran, retired supervisory agent. You cuffed him. Authority had shifted. The backup wasn't his. Rodriguez pulled her radio. Dispatch run a business license check. Mama Rosa's family restaurant, Belmont Avenue. Owner name. 30 seconds. The radio crackled. License registered to Marcus T. Williams. Current, no violations. She looked at Brennan. The owner is exactly who he said he was. Rodriguez pulled her phone, scrolled, found the number, put it on speaker. 2 rings. Director Chen. Angela Rodriguez, Newark PD. I'm standing in a restaurant where I see just arrested Marcus Williams. Silence. Then, Marcus Williams, my former partner. Yes, sir. Release him immediately. Who authorized this operation? Brennan's face went rigid. Chen's voice hardened. Who is the agent in charge? Rodriguez looked at Brennan, waited. Agent Kyle Brennan, sir. Agent Brennan, you just arrested a decorated federal agent with 27 years of service, in his own business, without verifying ownership, without clearance. Uncuff him now. 90 seconds. That's all it took to confirm what Marcus had been saying for 18 minutes. Brennan unlocked the handcuffs. Marcus rubbed his wrists, didn't move away, stayed exactly where he was. We received a tip. Marcus's voice stayed level. You received an anonymous tip, which you didn't verify, at an address you didn't research, about an owner you didn't identify. Standard procedure. Standard procedure is corroboration. I taught you that. Day 3 of Academy training. Anonymous tips require independent verification before action. You skipped that step. Why would I? Brennan said nothing. You saw a black owner in a Newark restaurant and assumed criminal activity. You didn't check business records. Didn't call the field office. Didn't verify anything. You made an assumption and acted on it. Rodriguez was already on her radio. Dispatch notify Internal Affairs. Notify DHS Office of Inspector General. Federal agent misconduct. I need evidence preservation protocols. Marcus looked at Brennan. I trained 140 agents. Most of them remember what I taught. You forgot, or you chose to ignore it. The lesson was being delivered. Too late to matter. Rodriguez turned to the 4 agents. All body cams off, secured. Chain of custody starts now. No one touches them without OE omnipresent. 4 agents reached for their vests, unclipped the cameras, handed them to Rodriguez. She placed each in evidence bags, sealed them, signed each seal. Customer recordings, I need copies. Anyone who filmed this, I need your contact information. 12 people stepped forward. Retired cops, families, the councilman, the college student, everyone who had documented what happened. Rodriguez pulled out her notebook, started taking names, phone numbers, email addresses, restaurant security footage. How many cameras? Marcus answered. 6. Cloud backup, automatic upload. I need access credentials. I'll provide them. She wrote it down. Witness statements, everyone who saw the arrest. I need you to stay. The dining room was now a crime scene. Not for what Marcus had done, for what had been done to him. Evidence lock was complete. 4 body cams, 12 customer videos, 6 security cameras, 45 witness statements. Every angle, every moment, every word. Nothing could be deleted, nothing could be hidden. The record was permanent. The Department of Homeland Security Office of Inspector General opened the investigation within 4 hours. Agent Brennan's personnel file was pulled. His complaint history was reviewed. His case records were examined. 7 complaints in 3 years. Every single one cited insufficient verification before enforcement action. Unlawful detention, failure to confirm business ownership, targeting without probable cause. All 7 complaints had been dismissed. Brennan had met his enforcement quotas. Numbers mattered. Complaints didn't. The investigator ran the demographics. 84% of Brennan's workplace enforcement actions targeted Black or Latino business owners. 16% targeted white owners. 0 resulted in actual immigration violations. Every single subject had been a legal resident or American citizen. 3 years of pattern, 3 years of bias, 3 years of targeting people based on assumptions, not evidence. The complaint dismissals were reviewed. Each one showed the same justification: agent met performance standards. No disciplinary action warranted. The system had enabled him. Supervisors had protected him. Quotas had rewarded him. 7 complaints, 3 years. 0 violations found. 84% minority targets. All dismissed because he hit his numbers. The pattern was undeniable. The phone number from the tip was tracked. Burner phone, purchased at a convenience store in Newark 3 days before the raid. Cash transaction, no camera footage. Voice analysis was ordered. The recorded tip was processed through federal databases. Match probability, 92%. Henry Walsh, owner of Walsh's Grill 2 blocks from Mama Rosa's. Competitor, direct business rival. Investigators pulled Walsh's history with the city. 4 health code complaints filed against Mama Rosa's over 2 years, all investigated, all dismissed, no violations found. 3 noise complaints filed against Marcus's restaurant, all dismissed. 2 zoning complaints, both dismissed. Walsh had tried every official channel to damage Marcus's business. When those failed, he called ICE, made an anonymous tip about undocumented workers, hoped federal agents would do what health inspectors wouldn't. He'd weaponized immigration enforcement, used it as a business tactic, targeted a competitor through a federal agency. 2 motives intersected: business rivalry, and the fact that Marcus was Black, owned a successful restaurant, and Walsh couldn't compete. 7 complaints dismissed because Brennan hit his numbers. Was the punishment he received fair for the damage he caused? Comment your thoughts. He had no control. Marcus's voice remained level, professional, the tone he'd used in 100 training sessions. ICE Standard Operating Procedure, Section 10.4. Workplace enforcement operations require 3 verifications before entry: business license confirmation, owner background check, and supervisor approval for high-traffic public locations. Brennan stepped closer. I don't need. Which of those 3 did you complete? Silence. Did you verify the business license? I don't. Did you check who owns this restaurant? The tip. Did you get supervisor approval to raid a restaurant with 45 civilians present during lunch service? Brennan said nothing. Marcus continued. I wrote the revision to Section 10.4 in March 2019. After an agent in Philadelphia violated protocol and created a public safety incident. You would have studied that revision in my class. He knew. Brennan's jaw tightened. I don't need approval for immigration enforcement. You need it for workplace operations in public spaces. This is my jurisdiction. Marcus leaned forward slightly. His voice dropped. Not threatening, factual. You need supervisor sign-off for any operation with potential public safety impact. Restaurants during service hours qualify. I taught you that. March 2021. Newark Academy. Final exam question 7. Brennan's face flickered. Doubt. Then anger overrode it. You don't give me orders. I'm not giving orders. I'm reminding you of the protocol you swore to follow. Call your workers, now. The agent had chosen. He would proceed. He would ignore the warnings, the cameras, the phones, the witness statements forming in real time. He would commit. Vanessa Williams stood at table 12. The tray in her hands held 2 plates lunch orders she'd been about to deliver. 35 years married. She had watched Marcus leave for raids, testify in court, train new agents. She had never watched federal agents interrogate him. The tray didn't move. Her hands stayed steady, but her body had gone still. The customers at table 12 looked from her to Marcus and back. They understood. That was her husband, the man being challenged in his own restaurant. Other customers were watching her now. The retired officers, the councilman, everyone could see. A wife, watching her husband get erased. Brennan pointed toward the kitchen. Bring your workers out, all of them. Marcus called through the service window. Everyone to the front. 8 employees filed out. Line cooks, dishwashers, servers. They stood behind the counter uncertain. Marcus stood with them. Papers, all of you. 7 produced work permits, valid, unexpired, proper documentation. The 8th, Jose Martinez, held up a green card. United States permanent resident, valid through 2029. Brennan examined each document, checked names, checked photos, checked dates. Every single one was legitimate. Every worker was documented. Every permit was real. 0 violations. The tip was wrong. The rate had no basis. Marcus spoke quietly. Everyone here is legal. You can verify through USCIS if you want. Brennan handed the documents back. He said nothing. Brennan held Jose's green card longer, studied it. How do I know this is real? Jose looked at Marcus, uncertain, afraid. Marcus answered, that's a genuine USCIS-issued permanent resident card. I sponsored his application 5 years ago. Case number is on file. You filed it? Yes, employment-based petition, approved August 2019. I can give you the USCIS verification line. They'll confirm in 2 minutes. Brennan turned the card over. Anyone can fake these. Then call the verification line. I don't need to verify what I can see. Marcus's voice remained level, professional. You're looking at illegal documentation. You're suggesting it's fraudulent without checking. That's not procedure. I'm conducting an investigation. You're refusing to verify legitimate papers. That's the opposite of investigation. Brennan handed the card back to Jose. How do I know he didn't buy this? The accusation hung in the air. Absurd, baseless, built on nothing. Marcus stepped forward. You have 0 violations here. No undocumented workers, no falsified papers, no grounds to remain. You can leave now or I file a formal complaint with your field office for unlawful workplace disruption. Brennan's voice hardened. You're obstructing a federal investigation. There's no investigation. There's nothing to investigate. Everyone is documented. You're interfering with my authority. I'm exercising mine as the property owner, as someone who knows ICE protocol better than you apparently do. Turn around. Marcus didn't move. You have no legal basis to detain me. Turn around. Now. The dining room went silent. 45 customers watched. 12 phones were recording. 6 security cameras captured every angle. Everyone understood what was about to happen. The agent was going to arrest a man with no violations, no criminal conduct, no legal grounds for detention. He was going to do it anyway. Brennan grabbed Marcus's arm. Click. Metal closed around his right wrist. Click. Left wrist secured. The tray crashed. Vanessa had dropped it. Plates shattered on the tile floor. The sound echoed through the restaurant. Customers stood. Voices rose. Someone shouted. The retired cops at the corner booth were already filming from 3 angles. Jose stood frozen behind the counter, hands shaking, watching the man who had sponsored his visa get arrested. Marcus's voice stayed calm, steady, projected toward the cameras. You are arresting a 27-year ICE veteran in his own restaurant for asking you to follow the protocol I trained you on. You have no violations, no evidence, no legal basis. The handcuffs remained. Brennan pulled Marcus toward the door, past the counter, past his wife, past the customers who had eaten there every Friday for years, past the plaque on the wall that proved everything Marcus had said. 45 witnesses, 4 cameras, 1 mistake. 4 agents wore body cams, all active, all recording. Brennan's camera captured Marcus's face as he spoke. The second agent's camera captured the crowd reaction. The third recorded Vanessa standing motionless by the broken plates. The fourth recorded the retirement plaque on the wall. Marcus looked directly at Brennan's body cam. He spoke clearly, deliberately, creating a record. Agent Kyle Brennan, badge number 4471. You completed my workplace enforcement module in March 2021 at the Newark ICE Academy. Your final exam score was 89%. You are currently violating Section 10.4 subsection A, unlawful detention without probable cause. Subsection C, failure to verify business ownership or before enforcement action. In subsection G, use of federal authority to suppress lawful objection to procedural violations. He paused. Let the camera record his face, his calm, his certainty. I taught you every procedure you're violating. You chose to forget. The cameras captured everything. Sergeant Davies moved forward, phone still recording. Stop, I know this man. Marcus Williams, 27 years ICE, retired supervisory agent. You're making a serious mistake. Brennan didn't turn. Step back. Federal business. He's telling the truth. I've worked joint operations with him. Step back or I'll detain you too. Davies stopped, but his phone stayed up. Recording. Councilman Torres was already on his phone. Third call. Mayor's office, David Torres. I'm witnessing ICE arrest a former federal agent in his own restaurant. No violations, no cause. I need Newark PD here now. The other agent, Torres's partner, shifted uncomfortably. His hand moved toward Brennan's shoulder. Hesitated. Pulled back. He wanted to stop this. He didn't. More customers stood. More phones rose. The family at table 7, the college student by the window, the elderly couple who had been eating quietly. Everyone was documenting. Everyone would remember. Everyone would testify to what they saw. The mistake was complete, recorded, irreversible. 6 weeks after the arrest, a federal grand jury convened in Newark. Agent Kyle Brennan was charged with deprivation of rights under color of law, false arrest, and conspiracy. Henry Walsh was indicted for filing false reports. The evidence was comprehensive. 4 body cam videos, 12 customer recordings, 6 security cameras, 45 witness statements. Marcus Williams testified for 4 hours in full dress uniform. The ribbons were visible. ICE Medal of Valor Presidential Rank Award, 27 years of service bars. The jury watched him raise his right hand and swear to tell the truth. Then they watched the body cam footage. Brennan demanding workers, Marcus offering credentials, the refusal to verify, the handcuffs closing, the arrest of the man who had trained the agent detaining him. The grand jury returned indictments on all counts. The trial lasted 3 weeks. Marcus testified on day 7. The prosecutor asked about his training protocols, about what he taught agents, about the procedures they were required to follow. Marcus answered with the precision of 27 years in federal law enforcement. I taught Agent Brennan to verify information before enforcement action, to check business ownership, to research backgrounds, to respect authority even when it doesn't look like expectations. When it's a black man, a woman, someone who doesn't fit the stereotype of power. He looked at the jury. He chose to ignore all of it. He saw a black man behind a restaurant counter and assumed criminal activity. Every procedure I taught him, every verification step, every constitutional requirement, discarded them based on an assumption. Brennan's lawyer objected. The judge overruled. The testimony stood. The jury deliberated 6 hours, guilty, all counts. Sentencing came 8 weeks later. The judge reviewed Brennan's pattern, 7 complaints over 3 years, 84%, minority targeting 0, actual violations found. Brennan received 6 years in federal prison, enhanced for abuse of authority and discriminatory enforcement pattern. Walsh received 3 years for weaponizing federal enforcement as a business tactic for targeting a competitor based on race. The judge's final statement: Agent Brennan, you weaponized your badge against the man who taught you to carry it with honor. Both men were led from the courtroom in handcuffs. The Department of Homeland Security settled 3 months later. $4.3 million. The agency wanted to avoid exposing how 7 complaints had been dismissed, how quotas had been prioritized over rights. Marcus directed the distribution. $1.5 million to scholarships for Black and Latino students pursuing law enforcement careers. $1 million to immigration rights organizations. $500,000 to Newark Small Business Legal Defense Fund. The remaining $1.3 million secured his family. Both children were federal prosecutors, now his daughter in Manhattan, his son in Philadelphia. Both had used their father's case in their training materials. The money wasn't the point. Justice was. But the money could fund more justice. New Jersey passed 3 laws within the year. The Marcus Williams Act required ICE workplace enforcement to verify business ownership before entry. Mandated supervisor approval for public space raids. Required 24-hour owner notification except for imminent threats. Marcus testified before the state legislature. His body cam footage was played for lawmakers. The pattern of dismissed complaints entered the official record. Other states drafted similar legislation. Congressional committees requested his testimony. The FBI Academy updated training materials. The case study was distributed to every federal agency. What happens when officers ignore the Constitution, when supervisors enable misconduct, when quotas matter more than rights. One man standing still in his restaurant had reshaped federal enforcement nationwide. Agent Kyle Brennan served 5 years, released 2024, barred from federal employment for life. His law enforcement career ended. His name became a cautionary example. Henry Walsh's restaurant closed within 6 months. He moved out of state. Some patterns don't change. Marcus Williams still runs Mama Rosa's. Friday lunch, 11:45. Same regulars. The retired cop's corner booth now includes younger officers who study his case and training. A new frame hangs beside his retirement plaque, a photograph from 2019 Marcus and Field Office Director Chen at a ceremony honoring federal-local law enforcement partnership. The restaurant thrives. The community remembers. Every Friday, Marcus stands behind the same counter where he was arrested. Life continued. Justice was served. Some restaurants you don't raid without verification. Some people you don't handcuff without checking who trained them. Some assumptions cost careers freedom and millions and expose systems that value numbers over rights. Marcus Williams proved this by following what he'd taught 143 agents. Know the law document. Everything trusts that truth prevails when evidence is preserved. He stood still while an agent he'd trained violated every protocol. He spoke calmly while authority was weaponized against him. He let 4 body cams, 12 phones, and 6 cameras record a student destroying himself by forgetting the most basic lesson. Verify before you act. The case is taught in academies now. The body cam footage trains new agents. Marcus's testimony is required reading for supervisors learning to recognize bias, investigate complaints, and prioritize rights over statistics. If you believe stories like this deserve telling, hit subscribe. If accountability matters in law enforcement, share this video. And if you've been judged by appearance instead of character, comment below. These stories are your stories.